Hey guys, what's going on? We're going to give it a couple of seconds to let some people get into the stream. Let a little bit of time pass, that's all. Once a few people get in here, we'll give it a start. Mostly today we're going to cover what went on with Reddit and Robinhood, etc. And we're going to tie that in with a recent Department of Homeland Security announcement that is targeting what I would call regular American citizens. I say it a lot, but like the Tea Party folk. Still not got anybody in here, but of course Restream runs really behind, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to minimize myself and then we'll give this a play. I really didn't want to play it until a couple of people got in, but we're going to go ahead and go with it. Because most people watch this stuff on replay, right?
This is White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki.
Is the White House concerned about the stock market activity we're seeing around GameStop, and now with some other stocks as well, including the subsidiary or whatever, the company that was Blockbuster? And have there been any conversations with the SEC about how to proceed?
Well, I'm also happy to repeat that we have the first female Treasury Secretary and a team that's surrounding her, and often questions about market we'll send to them. But our team is, of course, our economic team, including Secretary Yellen and others, are monitoring the situation. It's a good reminder, though, that the stock market isn't the only measure of the health of our economy. It doesn't reflect how working and middle-class families are doing. As you all know from covering this, we're in the midst of a K-shaped recovery. America's workers are struggling to make ends meet, which is why the president has introduced this urgent package to get immediate relief to families.
Second question on, given all the volatility surrounding Wall Street and GameStop, what is the Biden administration doing to protect the average American investor if there is going to be potentially a major market correction coming?
Well, the SEC put out a statement. I believe it was today, or in the last 24 hours, I should say. We refer you to that. We're not going to have additional comment from here.
Nothing beyond just monitoring it. Has he had any conversations with economic officials about what's going on?
We don't. He's briefed by his economic team frequently, but I don't have anything more to read out for you. Go ahead.
Is the SEC, DOJ, or broader administration specifically looking at Robinhood and other platforms' decision to prevent retail investors from purchasing certain stocks like GameStop?
I don't have anything more on this aside from to point you to the SEC statement.
We're not going to talk about this, regardless of whether anybody wants to talk about it or not. I love how the first answer to the whole situation yesterday was, there's a woman in charge now, Janet Yellen, and so obviously this will get taken care of, as if that is some kind of reassurance. I am really, it's beyond me. So today we're going to be talking about the awesomeness that went on Reddit and 4chan, and how the what we call whales, or the large investors, the one percenters that gamble every day in the stock market, how they all took offense to what happened over the past few days, and accordingly they shut down the retail investors. So that's what we're going to cover today. Now, she mentioned that the SEC had put out a statement regarding what was going on. This is the extent of their statement. We are aware of and actively monitoring the ongoing market volatility in the options and equities markets, and consistent with our mission to protect investors and maintain fair, orderly, and efficient markets, we are working with our fellow regulators to assess the situation and review the activities of regulated entities, financial intermediaries, and other market participants. So basically, they said a bunch of nothing. And so it doesn't even describe what's really going on. And so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about what's really going on. So over the past few weeks, regular retail traders is what they call us, retail traders. And that is people who just are investing their money on their own now through Robinhood or E-Trade or any number of platforms that you can buy stock and trade stock on your own. And the institutions that have been trading on the stock market for years and years and years and have been able to buy up most of the power in the stock market have been essentially chip whipping retail investors, and they are able to, for instance, take things that they want to get out into the news media directly to the mainstream media, and they will get their news to pump their stocks just fine. And when it dumps and retail traders are left with the short end of the stick, they don't have a problem with that whatsoever. But what happened was a Reddit group got together and decided, well, you know, BlackRock by itself can just make one decision in the stock market and completely ruin all of the retail investors' day, right? Just one man, one decision. He's in charge of billions of dollars, and he can control whether the market goes one way or the other. And somebody finally realized, well, wait a minute, if we all get together and we pool our resources and we all talk and communicate openly on public forums about which stocks we want to support and which stocks we don't, we can make the same kind of influence on the financial market that these whales were doing by themselves. And that's what happened. They picked, interestingly enough, in 4chan style, they picked a bunch of 80s and 90s stocks to invest in, making it obvious and leaving their signature, which is something that they like to do on the chans. So what happened? Well, the powers that be got a hold of Robinhood, E-Trade, and all the other types of retail investor apps and got them to shut it down, to the point where all of the retail investors who were buying up the stocks and causing these stocks to skyrocket in price were all of a sudden prohibited from selling the stock once it had gone up. And these are, of course, apps that have been preaching their bringing the power to the people. I mean, the name of the app is Robinhood, for crying out loud. But as soon as it started putting the whales in danger, it quickly switched from that position. So I want to get to, hold on. Sorry, guys. So right here we go. However, retail investors decided to act the established status quo. A designated Reddit group with exponentially rising subscribers of millions of people teamed up and used low-cost trading platforms to pump the GME price by triple-digit percentages in days, which started a snowball effect. Because of the unique way that short positions work, as investors have to borrow the stock, sell it, and then rebuy it to return to the lender, Wall Street was caught off guard. When investors with sizable positions had to bail out to cut their losses, they actually needed to buy the stock, which resulted in what's known as a short squeeze, and later even a gamma squeeze. According to estimations from the financial analytics company S3 Partners, listen to this now, this is the important part. These are the big institutions that are selling these stocks short. Short sellers lost over $23 billion with GameStop alone. These developments raised further concerns among regulators and exchanges, as Nasdaq's CEO suggested that they could halt stocks from trading in similar conditions. So what does this mean? So regular people got together and in a public forum decided to start all buying the same stock, causing the stock price to go up. Now these evil giant institutions, sorry, they're not evil, they're just giant institutions, have been short selling stocks like AMC, Nokia, GameStop. And the thing about shorting, especially when you start getting into leveraged trading, is that if you bet that the stock is going to go down, you start to lose money, yes. But if the stock goes through the roof, it takes all of your money because you bet that the stock was going to go down. And when the stock goes up and up and up, because of that negative bet, you're going to lose more and more money. But at a certain point of the stock skyrocketing, when you bet that it was going to go down, it drains you. That's how you saw they lost $23 billion in just the GameStop situation. Now, we are talking about a group of Redditors, okay? A group of American citizens who got on Reddit and affected this kind of change in the financial market. And what does that tell us? Well, it tells us that even though over and over again Redditors are underestimated, it might be time to start taking them seriously when they get together and start making decisions. But it also did this. This is the most important thing. Just like when they did the Great Meme War of 2016 and they all got together on Reddit and decided, hey, it might be fun to get a president elected. Let's see what goes on. Well, people were a little bit wary to say, wow, that had a huge effect on the 2016 election. That is, everybody except for the tech monopolies. The tech monopolies went and made sure that every single person who participated in the Great Meme War of 2016 was removed from all forms of social media by the 2020 election. And they darn sure did that. But what it did was it pointed out a weakness in the system. And the only thing that they could do to prevent it from taking off was to silence and ban. Well, when you're talking about what they've done to the financial system now, right? They've done the same thing. So Robinhood can close their app and they can force all these guys to not be able to collect the money that they lawfully earned, and they can do whatever they want to people. But from here on out, people know that if the financial system can be gamed by some Redditors, then what have the institutional investors, the people who are trading on Wall Street for a century, what have they been doing to manipulate the market? And the cat's out of the bag. The bag's down by the river, as Chris Farley used to say. There's nothing that they can do. The genie can't go back in the bottle. So now not only are they going to have to look at regulation to prevent retail investors from having any influence in the stock market, which they will try to do, they're also going to have to contend with the fact that this market was manipulated very easily. What other kind of market manipulations are going on in the stock market? This term that's going to kind of move into the psyche of regular everyday Americans, pump and dump. Who has really been doing these pump and dump schemes for a century? And are they illegal? Because it seems to me like the pump and dumps that the institutional investors, the billionaires, were doing, those were illegal. But when a bunch of regular citizens get together and discuss publicly what companies they're trading, I don't see that as illegal. And yet, They've been banned from selling their stock. They've been banned on Robinhood, on several platforms, and that tells you all you need to know. There's power here. So let me get to another point here. It was done with AMC stock. It was done with GameStop. It was done with Nokia. And basically what they're citing as the reason why they should have been able to bring it down is because of this right here. The primary reason for the surge, smaller investors who have banded together in places like Reddit under the subreddit Wall Street Bets. And it's not just GameStop. Shares of AMC Entertainment jumped more than 230% Wednesday as the Twitter trend Save AMC spread amid concerns the movie theater chain might file for bankruptcy due to the CV. Right, they're banned. Well, no, you can't. As far as I know, you can't sell it either. Hold on a second. Let me get to... All it says is that in light of current market volatility, we are restricting transactions for certain securities to position closing only. So what that means is you can only close your position. You can only get out. So yeah, you're right. You could sell, but you can't buy back in. Thank you for that clarification, Chris. All right. So they've restricted these people from being able to take advantage of the pump that they created themselves. Now, let's see some of the reaction. Oh, you are scam artists. You are crooks. You deserve to be behind bars, and you know it. The NASDAQ lets hedge funds run wild all day. Let me make sure I'm on my... Okay, yeah. Wall Street... NASDAQ lets hedge funds run wild all day, and Wall Streeters pump up their views 24/7 on CNBC and investor conferences, but at the hint of being able to beat at their own game, Robinhood and Discord pull the rug from Redditors inside of 24 hours. And the insanity about this is that when all of this is going down, this is another example of decentralization of information, and it is the one thing that terrifies all of the controllers. It doesn't matter from which faction of controller you come from. Decentralization terrifies you. So you're seeing decentralization with cryptocurrency, you're seeing decentralization with encryption, and you're seeing decentralization now even in the stock market, because if every single citizen in America learns how to trade in the stock market, and we all combine our financial power, and we target and we make decisions as a collective, the institutional investors in the stock market lose a lot of their power. And the power that they don't lose, the curtain gets lifted up on the financial system, period. And the real fear is, I think, out of this whole situation by Wall Street, is that citizens will see behind the curtain, that they'll lose faith in the financial institutions. The same people who are saying, oh, Bitcoin is a fiat currency and can go to zero, they are printing fiat currency right now, those people. And I think the real fear is they're going to be able to see how much manipulation that there is in the market. The regular people. And I wanted to show you guys this too, because these boards, 4chan, 8chan, Reddit, they have been attacked vociferously because of their effectiveness. And people, they doubt it, but it's effective. And when the horrible shooting happened in New Zealand, I've talked about many times on my channel, and it was live streamed on Facebook, but they went after 4chan and 8chan. To me, it seemed obvious that there was a targeting of this area. Why? Because this is the last place where you can actually have free speech. These ideas of memeing a president into office, or buying so much Blockbuster and Nokia stock that you empty out the institutional investors' shorts. That's the kind of information that comes out on top of the wash basin of freedom of speech. That's the reason why it keeps coming out of this area. And is there a lot of bad stuff in this space? Yes, there is. There's a lot of bad stuff anytime you allow freedom of speech. But the point is these ideas, these decentralization, these power to the people kind of ideas keep sprouting out of these anonymous boards, and that, my friends, is why they have a problem with it. Not because it was involved in something in New Zealand. I mean, the greatest thing I think 4chaners ever did was their glorious troll on Shia LaBeouf. I mean, if you weren't there for that, I mean, just Google it. It's one of the most hilarious things that ever happened on the internet. And I'm sure I rank it up there with as high as what they're doing right now with Robinhood. It really is that hilarious. But I just wanted to touch that for a second. And pump and dump, right? So this is what they're going to accuse American citizens who are talking publicly about what companies they're going to buy and sell. This is what they're going to accuse them of doing a pump and dump. And it's just important for you guys to realize that this kind of scam right here is done by people who have insider information, and that's not what was going on. And we'll see out of Miss Janet Yellen how she decides to handle this in the future. I mean, let's be real. She's going to have to come out with something more than this statement right here, right? She's going to have something more than that. Now, in case you guys were wondering if I'm just crazy or if I've actually got a point here, I wanted you guys to watch this video. It's from The Hill on the YouTube channel The Hill. And yeah, I know, Vicky, it's called a pump and dump. Let's try to keep our minds out of the gutter. Okay, so I really want you guys to watch this because he's going to basically articulate a lot of the similar things that I'm telling you right now. And I find it interesting that it's on the corporate media.
On the company called GameStop. A band of Redditors on a subreddit called Wall Street Bets called their bluff, drove the stock up to the tune of thousands of percentile more to force those hedge funds to liquidate billions of dollars in losses while the merry band of Redditors gets rich. It's the ultimate David and Goliath story. Underemployed and unemployed, sitting at home in their pajamas, using the power of the internet and new trading platforms like Robinhood to destroy the kings of American finance. We are never going to go back to the old ways of doing business, and Wall Street knows this. So what's their solution? It's one that we, my friends, must resist absolutely at all costs. Now they know that they do not have a monopoly on manipulating the market. They are going to do everything in their power to go after you and people like me who are not on the side of the billionaire elite. As I laid out yesterday, they are already going into overdrive on CNBC, who started off yesterday by inviting the literal CEO of the NASDAQ on to call for more regulation. Let's take a listen to that again.
One of the things that we're talking about is maybe misinformation and pump and dumps, and it's occurring on social media again. I'm wondering whether it's part of the same problem, the type of regulation that we finally need to consider. And like I said, we should always have a light touch with regulation, but you're seeing the way things can get started. Again, this is different. Maybe it's Reddit, maybe it's not Facebook, but you're seeing the same situation. At this point, it's not about an election. It's not about an insurrection, but there are interesting things happening that seem to be spawned to some extent.
Do you hear how insidious that is? Do you hear how truly horrible that is, what that man just did? It's so funny because they love this term, but he just dog whistled that the people who are doing this are the same people who were insurrectionists at the Capitol building, the same people who didn't accept the vote, the same he's connecting it all. And I'll tell you why they're doing that. Because eventually, anybody who doesn't agree with the system as it is, we're all going to be in the same group, guys. That's what we're going to have to realize. We're all going to be in the same group. I want to listen to this again. Just listen to the fear in this billionaire's voice as he talks about power being given to the people.
CEO of the NASDAQ on to call for more regulation. Let's take a listen to that again.
One of the things that we're talking about is maybe misinformation and pump and dumps, and it's occurring on social media again. It just, I'm wondering whether it's part of the same problem, the type of regulation that we finally need to consider. And like I said, we should always have a light touch with regulation, but you're seeing the way things can get started again. This is different. Maybe it's Reddit, maybe it's not Facebook, but you're seeing the same situation. At this point, it's not about an election. It's not about an insurrection, but there are interesting things happening that seem to be spawned to some extent, or at least blown out of proportion by social media again. Adina.
Well, I do think, though, that as we look at these new technologies that are there available to everyone, including investors, I think it's also important for regulators to understand that, manipulation is manipulation, whether it's happening through a new technology medium or it's happening through traditional mail.
Manipulation's manipulation, whether it's being done by billionaire hedge fund owners who have increased their wealth from billions of dollars before the CV to trillions of dollars after the CV, whether it's them doing it or a bunch of people in their house trying to make passive income because they've lost their job, it doesn't matter. Same situation.
I think it's just a matter of making sure that we understand what the behavior is, what's underpinning the behavior, and working appropriately with the regulators to manage.
What's underpinning the behavior is a class struggle, and that's what this is highlighting. Is that this is a class struggle. The 99.9%. That's where the problem is, lady.
The situation.
Yeah, you heard that correctly. The guy from CNBC who hates regulation is now calling for more regulation. And the CEO of the head of one of the largest trading exchanges in the world is agreeing with him. Notice, when hedge funds manipulate markets, when they screw over regular people in different companies, when Wall Street requires billions of dollars in bailouts and floats from the Federal Reserve, there isn't any call for more regulation. But a couple of average Joes on the internet make money at the expense of a billionaire hedge fund. Well, that just can't stand. And I'm not exaggerating here, just showing you one clip. The idea across the American elite right now is that what has happened with GameStop is unacceptable. Don't believe me? Check this out. As GameStop and other stocks soared, Arthur Levitt Jr., he decided to weigh in. And if you don't know who that is, it's the former SEC chairman who literally presided over the dot-com bubble and was appointed by Bill Clinton, who perhaps more than any president is responsible for much of the financialization of our economy beginning in his
Not to mention with the 2008 housing crisis caused by Bill Clinton.
Levitt wrote an op-ed in Bloomberg calling for a full agency investigation into online stock trading platforms, and said that social media is taking advantage of users' behavioral psychology and pushing them into dangerous territory. Okay, maybe. I don't even really disagree with that. But doesn't it just tell you everything? That this is what they want to investigate now? That this is what they want the government to do something about now? Don't underestimate how mainstream this view is. Yesterday, the White House press secretary said Janet Yellen is, quote, monitoring the situation. Elizabeth Warren tweeted out that we needed more regulation. The state securities regulator for the state of Massachusetts said GameStop trading should be halted for 30 days. And the SEC now says they're working with regulators to assess the situation, review the activities, and other participants. Like I said, hey, maybe that's justified, but you people are silent on the crimes of the actually influential people who rig our economy on a daily basis. You want a near-perfect corollary? Billionaire investor Bill Ackman. He went on CNBC in March 2020 to give an emotional interview to say hell is coming and that hotel stocks would go to zero. His interview sparked a panic sell on Wall Street. It is seen in retrospect as one of the precipitating events of that drop. Guess what? At the exact same time, right after that interview, Ackman was buying billions of dollars in the stock as it hit rock bottom. In fact, he pocketed $2 billion in bets against the market as it was crashing. It was a crash that he helped spawn through his influence, through his media appearance. Call me when the SEC and the media and others actually get upset about that, When Ackman got some bad press, but he still got billions in the bank.
You want some other perfect corollaries to that? How about when certain people riot and they burn down buildings and nothing happens, but then the Capitol Hill riot, they go after individual people by name over and over and over again, right? Doesn't that seem strange? And now when the billionaire hedge fund managers who are financing the protests in the summer are doing the exact same thing retail investors are doing, we're not going to do anything to them, but we're going to go after every single one of you people who were on Reddit and made $200 that day. We're coming for you.
Call me when the government does anything about behavior like that happens every single day on the street. Here's the other thing. The elites control the institutions. When millions of people woke up and they saw this story and they checked Wall Street Bets on Reddit, they decided, hey, you know what? I want in. And so they decided to try. And the companies themselves decided that they know better. At one point, Robinhood, E-Trade, and TD Ameritrade were all down as the market opened. But TD Ameritrade actually went further than anyone. They decided, you know what? These idiots don't know anything. They decided to block their own customers from trading stocks that were popular on Reddit. Once again, maybe this is justifiable. When's the last time a major trading exchange or a regulatory body or anyone blocked billionaires from executing their crazy gambling schemes? Never. Not once, because they own the exchanges. They reign supreme because they literally control everything. And it turns out that was the beginning of elite collusion. Later in the day, the site Discord, which runs the private chat servers, took down Wall Street Bets chat forum, claiming...
Just like whenever people are deplatformed and digitally deleted, you see the coordination between Twitter and Facebook and Google. You are now seeing coordination as the people are being shut down from trying to decentralize the financial market. It's the same type of collusion by the same types of people. And when he's going on and on about the guy from Wall Street that did obviously what was a pump and dump and didn't get in trouble, what this is just another example of the two-tier justice system. We saw all of the people lie to Congress during Russiagate that didn't get charged with anything, and we saw what they did to Manafort, and we saw what they did to all the other people on the other side of it. It is a two-tier justice system politically. It is a two-tier justice system now financially. And what I'm saying when I say the cat's out of the bag is too many people are going to realize that this system right here, this game is rigged. And I got to tell you, even I am in fear of a lot of people realizing that the financial market is a house of cards, because it's strictly the belief that a fiat currency has value that gives it value. And if anybody who can critically think at all decides to go do a dig at the US dollar, things could go bad really quick.
Had violated the terms of service for reasons other than their content, claiming that it had something hateful on there. And then the motherlode, Wall Street Bet subreddit itself, had to take itself private, at least for a short period yesterday, presumably because of threats from the site's admins that they would be unable to moderate the content without running afoul of platform policy. This is oligarchy, using government and private company control to enforce policies which benefit only the elites at the top. It's never been more naked. The good news is that this is just the beginning. Google decentralization. Google democratization of finance. The internet showed us the way, and we can follow it all. And that's the thing, Crystal, which is that, okay, yeah, the SEC, is this all good for society? No, it's not. Speculation is bad. But these people have been speculators and for so long. And if speculators are going to be legal, if it's all going to be legal, then why shouldn't at least the people at the bottom, the little people, actually be able to do it too? But now the SEC is getting involved. They said they're monitoring the situation. The former chairman who presided over the financialization of our economy is like, whoa, you got to investigate this. Everybody on CNBC is calling for regulation. Discord just deplatforms the entire website. Now Robinhood says you can't buy, AMC stock. We'll only allow you to sell it. I mean, there are just TD Ameritrade is jumping in for the good of their customers and all of that.
So noble.
Exactly. Where were you? What were you people? Where's the NASDAQ CEO when her exchange is used on a daily basis with high frequency trading, which has flash crashed our markets? I don't even know how many times. They don't care. That's all good because they make money on the exchange.
Well, and because those are their people.
That's the thing.
Their class.
They would go bankrupt if they actually did that. When Bill Ackman's scheme, it's pretty obvious to me, gets investigated by the SEC, you can call me. You can go after the Redditors.
Yeah.
Until then, I don't want to hear it. When is Bloomberg Chat gonna take down? Because on the Bloomberg terminals, they can. It's called IB Chat. They can all talk to each other. When they take down the chats and they start monitoring there of all the insider trading and all of the collusion that's happening on a daily basis between the ultra rich, then you can take down the Discord server.
I've heard there's some hateful speech on there, so
I've
we're
heard
gonna
I've
have
heard
to
the
look
same
into
thing.
that.
Yeah.
I mean, that was me.
So we'll just have to look and see where they're going. And before we go into the next part of the video, I want to play for you guys the beginning of that interview again. I want you to listen to the fear inside of this guy's voice when he's talking, because it plays into a Department of Homeland Security memo that I'm about to read to you in just a second. The elites do not want us to recognize the correct us versus them, right? When they get an us versus them thing going, or a dialectic, they want it to be white versus black, or left versus right, or Christian versus Muslim. They don't ever want it to be the correct one, which is 99.9% of all of us versus about a building full of people. And that's why this man is so scared.
One of the things that we're talking about is maybe misinformation and pump and dumps, and it's occurring on social media again. I'm wondering whether it's part of the same problem, the type of regulation that we finally need to consider. And like I said, we should always have a light touch with regulation, but you're seeing the way things can get started again. This is different. Maybe it's Reddit, maybe it's not Facebook, but you're seeing the same situation. At this point, it's not about an election. It's not about an insurrection, but there are.
It's not about an election. It's not about an insurrection. See how he does that? See how he ties that in? So now the people who are trying to establish decentralized finances and teach other people how they can sit at home and make money just the way the rich do, now there's a problem.
Interesting things happening that seem to be spawned to some extent, or at least blown out of proportion by social media again, Adina.
Well, I do think, though, that as we look at these new technologies that are there available to everyone, including investors, I think it's also important for regulators to understand that, manipulation is manipulation, whether it's happening through a new technology medium or it's happening through traditional mail. So I think it's just a matter of.
So manipulation's manipulation, okay? And isn't it hilarious how that's what they start talking about whenever it's time to come for the small person? It's time to come for the little guy. And so now manipulation is manipulation. We're going to forget the past century where they've literally crashed the stock market with their manipulations. God forbid some Redditors get a joke off and pump and dump a few stocks for a few days. To close that one off, they're scared of decentralization. Decentralization of anything, particularly finances and information. And that's why it's so important we decentralize everything. I always tell a friend of mine, I wish some of my friends would say, I wish you had 100,000, 200,000 subscribers, and I wouldn't turn it down, of course, but I always tell them what's more important. I would rather have 10 YouTube channels with 10,000 subscribers than one YouTube channel with 100,000 subscribers, because it's important that we decentralize information, because they can shut down a list of 30, 40 channels, but they can't shut us all down. And, they can shut down Robinhood and they can shut down Reddit, but they're not going to be able to put that genie back in the bottle either. Even the people who are plugged in, if they read this story, they're going to think to themselves, if those Redditors can manipulate our stock market to that level, then our entire financial system is bunk. Now, why did that guy want to tie in what was going on in Reddit and with the stock market with this time it's not about a vote, this time it's not about an insurrection. This time it's about and then the rest of it was all mumbling, so I'm not even going to repeat it. But this is why. Yeah, Dogecoin is up 900%. I saw that. I try to stay away from altcoins because, man, they can make you pay. But so this is why that guy is making that connection, because today there was a Department of Homeland Security announcement, and we're going to read through it. The Acting Secretary of Homeland Security has issued a National Terrorism Advisory System (NTAS) bulletin due to heightened threat environment across the United States, which DHS believes will persist in the weeks following the successful presidential inauguration. Isn't that strange that they have to say the successful? As if, what, was it not going to be successful? It's very strange. Why wouldn't they just say in the weeks following the presidential inauguration? Anyways, information suggests that some ideologically motivated violent extremists with objections to the exercise of governmental authority and the presidential transition, as well as other perceived grievances fueled by false narratives, could continue to mobilize to incite or commit violence. Guys, let me tell you something. You want to know what? That whole paragraph and probably this entire paper was written when they did the Transition Integrity Project, the TIP report. This is a counter to preventing anybody from that side of the aisle, from the MAGA coalition. They want you to shut up. They want me to shut up. And there's not a lot of people like me that are out there still talking about it, and it's working to a large extent. But this vague DHS announcement, it is a threat. The first thing that I noticed that was strange about the Biden transition was that the most popular president in the history of the country, according to vote count, needed 40,000 National Guard troops to do a peaceful transition of power. That seemed a bit strange to me. And now this seems a bit strange to me here as well. Remember, yesterday we went over how the press secretary coined the new term DVEs. And then now in the next day, it's released in the Department of Homeland Security. Let's read through the reasons why they want us to be at a heightened state. Throughout 2020, DVEs, or domestic violent extremists, targeted individuals with opposing views engaged in First Amendment protected nonviolent protest activity. DVEs motivated by a range of issues, including anger over CV restrictions, the 2020 election results, and police use of force, have plotted and on occasion carried out attacks against government facilities. Long-standing racial and ethnic tension, including opposition to immigration, has driven DVE attacks, including the 2019 shooting in El Paso, Texas that killed 23, which was a horrible tragedy. DHS is concerned these same drivers to violence will remain through early 2021, and some DVEs may be emboldened by January 6, 2021 breach of the U.S. Capitol building in Washington, D.C. to target elected officials and government facilities. But wait a minute, over here. But on Friday, the Arizona prosecutors withdrew that claim as the Justice Department said that despite calls during the attack to capture certain lawmakers and kill VP President Mike Pence, no evidence has been found yet to support any serious effort to do so. Quote, there is no direct evidence at this point of kill-capture teams and assassination. Michael Sherwin, the federal district attorney for Washington, D.C., who is overseeing the investigation of the Capitol attack, told reporters on Friday. Oh, well, I guess we're still going to be worried about it. DHS remains concerned that homegrown violent extremists, HVEs, inspired by forest terrorist groups who committed 3 attacks targeting government officials in 2020, remain a threat. Threats of violence against critical infrastructure, including electric, telecommunications, and healthcare sectors, increased in 2020, with violent extremists citing misinformation and conspiracy theories about CV for their actions. Now, isn't it strange? Who determines what conspiracy theories about the CV is? Who determines what is misinformation? DHS, as well as other federal agencies and law enforcement partners, will continue to take precautions to protect people and infrastructure across the United States. Well, it's very strange that Nashville incident happened, and then here we're talking about the severity of the danger to infrastructure. DHS, as well as other federal agencies and law enforcement partners, will continue to take precautions to protect people and infrastructure across the United States. DHS remains committed to preventing violence and threats meant to intimidate or coerce specific populations on the basis of their religion, race, ethnicity, identity, or political views, unless you're a conservative. DHS encourages state, local, tribal, and territory homeland security partners to continue prioritizing physical security measures, particularly around government facilities, to protect people and critical infrastructure. Wow. And when you get to the core of it, they have no actionable intelligence that anything is about to happen. They're just releasing this bulletin. Well, why are they releasing this bulletin now? For the same reason that guy was trying to connect what happened on Reddit to the insurrection at the Capitol. What we're seeing is a demonization of one side of the political aisle. And I hate to tell you this, but the other side of the aisle is being demonized just as much. In a couple of days, I'm going to be going through a Jimmy Dore episode with Chris Hedges, and I'm going to posit a theory that it might be time for the left and the right who see that the system that we have right now isn't working. It might be time that we start looking at what do we have in common, right? Because this isn't working. For as long as I'll be on this YouTube channel, which everybody who knows me knows that it could go away at any minute. I have 2 strikes on me already. This isn't working. So, that's my episode I wanted to do. I will cover Robinhood and the future of what goes on with retail investors, and I will let you know if the little guys win. In the meantime, if you really want to stick it to the man, you need to start doing research into the crypto space and into alternative cash flow. And if, like, let me say, I'm not a financial advisor by any way, shape, or form. And generally, I'm a moron when it comes to these types of things. But if inflation is coming, if hyperinflation is coming, or inflation is coming, which our money is inflating now as we speak, and we have negative interest rates or zero interest rates. That means that the money sitting in your checking account, even though the numbers aren't going down, is literally losing money because the dollars in the account are becoming worth less. Smart people are starting to notice this, and they're starting to use their dollars to buy things that maintain wealth. Like say for instance, if I buy a silver coin today at $25 spot, we'll say, and then inflation goes up by a certain percentage point, this silver is going to be worth maybe $28 or $29. Now, the silver didn't become worth anymore. The dollars became worth less, and that's the key. People are trying to put their dollars into things that will maintain value during an inflationary state. That's property, that's physical golds, that's other assets, and some people are choosing crypto. Now, I don't push crypto. This channel's not even monetized, okay? And I know the joke is Chris, I'm always his financial advisor. No, I'm not. I'm not a financial advisor. But I would suggest to people that if the financial market is so easily manipulated, and if it is just a giant Ponzi scheme where they're just printing dollars out of thin air, if it's true that maybe, say, 1/3 of the dollars in existence were printed in the last year, what is going to happen? How long will this financial system teeter? And that was not some kind of secret Illuminati symbol, please. But how long will this financial system teeter on and function? That's a question we're all going to have to answer personally. But as for me and myself, I've started looking for things that hold value. And that's where I'm going to put my money. As far as Bitcoin goes, guys, I just let you know, it's not a currency. It's a store of value. This is a way oversimplification of it, but just look at it as digital gold. You know, you don't take a gold coin into the 7-Eleven and buy cigarettes with it or coffee. No, but that gold coin, as you hold it, it raises in value. Sometimes it goes down, but it generally will go up in value. That's what Bitcoin is. So when they're like, you can't buy anything with Bitcoin, well, you can pay your property taxes in Florida with it, but that's beside the point. It's not made for that. It's made to store value. Okay? Anyways, what they did to these traders who got on Reddit and decided to collectivize, that's funny. That's what this is. They're collectivizing. It's like they're forming a union around investing. And then they try to close out Robinhood and prevent them from unionizing. It's the same thing. They're doing the same thing that they did to people who tried to unionize back in the day. They're doing the same thing digitally now to people who are trying to unionize their investments in 2021. And it's going to be an interesting time period. All right, guys. I love y'all. Like, share, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I've got a couple of episodes that I'm working on now. I really want to go over Colonel House with you guys because he is quite the interesting figure. But more importantly, I think tomorrow our chat is going to be about cycle threshold values, Governor DeSantis, and the PCR test. It's an interesting talk. It's a very interesting talk. But anyways, guys, like, share, subscribe to the channel. I love y'all. Peace.